Welcome once again. It's Relationships at Work, your leadership guide to building workplace connections and avoiding blind spots. Hey, it's me, Russel Lolacher, your host, communications leadership expert, couple of decades in both those areas, whole heap of curiosity too, just like you, on how we can make the workplace a better place. If you're a leader trying to understand and improve your impact on work culture and the employee experience, you're in the right place. It's an interesting week. It's a milestone week. It's a big week. We're celebrating something special. 250 episodes. That's right. This is episode 251, but earlier in the week, my guest episode with Dr. Elise Cortez was 250. So now it's time to sort of stop. Think about it. 250 shows, 50 solo reflections, 149 expert interviews, one filled with returning guests, all filled with hard truths and moments of some serious honesty, all focused on helping us show up better at work and lead more intentionally. So today, I'm not diving into one topic. Nope, I'm not bringing on a guest. I just want to reflect. But not on the podcast itself. I want to reflect on what has jumped out from this experience, these conversations, what's been revealed about leadership and workplace culture. After 250 episodes, I've got 6 truths that I just can't unsee. Now, of course, way more truths when it comes to the show, but do you think I'm going to come up with 250? Nobody's going to listen to that. If you go to our newsletter, I've got 25 in that, and that all already felt pretty long. But for here, we're going to stick to 6. Now, these 6 truths, they show up again and again across industries, roles, levels of experience. They don't go away. And they're often ignored, but they're always present. So today I want to share these 6 truths with you, not as a checklist, but as a conversation, a story really, one about what happens when we stop paying attention to the human side of leadership and what we might do if we started taking it more seriously. And as I've often said, the problem with the workplace is leadership, but the solution to the workplace is leadership. People like you. Truth number 1, leaders need leaders. We assume once someone gets a title, they've got it all figured out, or at least that's how we treat them. But what actually happens is this. The more senior the role, the less support leaders tend to receive. Formal training disappears, feedback dries up, expectations increase. So where's the support? Leaders are generally just thrown out into the wilderness going, figure it out. Leaders are told to show up with clarity, empathy, and strength, but few are even shown how. And fewer still are asked what they need. That abandonment, that becomes isolation. And isolation over time breeds some pretty bad things like defensiveness, burnout, ego. Not because leaders don't care, but because they're overwhelmed, undersupported, and unsure where to turn without looking weak. Leadership isn't supposed to be a guessing game, but far too often that's exactly what it is. The best leaders aren't the ones who figure it out alone. They're the ones who are given the space, the mentorship, and the feedback to grow. And most of them, they're not. Which brings me to the next truth. Truth number 2. Bad employee experiences leave a mark that lasts for years, even decades. On the show, I always start every episode with, what is your best or worst employee experience? When it's bad, and there have been some doozies on the show, it can go back decades, and they can remember it like it was yesterday. Now, for example, you might not remember the exact thing your boss said in that one meeting, but you remember how they made you feel. People on this show, conversations I've had, tell me about workplaces they left decades ago, and they're still carrying the weight of what happened. That's not a bad day. That's trauma. These leadership moments leave marks, scars. Every conversation, every decision, every silence, they leave an imprint. It might build trust. It might build resentment, but it still builds something. We like to think work is just work, but it's not. It's emotional. It's identity. It's where we spend most of our waking hours. And when leadership is careless with that, it does damage, even if no one calls it out. Which is why clarity is so important. which gets me to number 3 of our truths. Managers and leaders are different, but often get confused. Now, we hand out titles and expect leadership skills to follow, but managing tasks and leading people are not the same thing. I remember bringing this up with someone, and they told me they had a boss that said it was just a semantics exercise. Leadership and management, they're interchangeable. It's like, get a thesaurus, they're right there, right? That boss needs to give their head a shake. Management is about delivery. It's about the goal. Leadership is about people, their growth and their experience and their journey in delivering those products or services. Now, someone can be both, absolutely, but only if we recognize the distinction and support both roles. Because when we treat them as interchangeable, we underdevelop our leaders and overburden our managers. That's when performance stalls, teams get frustrated, and cultures start to fray at the edges. Leadership is about relationships. It's the name of the podcast. It's about guidance, about creating space for people to thrive, not just to execute. And when we blur the line, we fail to provide what either role really needs. And it's not just about the individuals in these roles. That brings us to truth number 4. It's not bad leaders, it's bad leadership ecosystems that cause real damage. Yes, of course, we've all encountered that boss. But what we rarely ask is, how did they get there? Who promoted them? Who protected them? What systems rewarded their bad behavior or failed to hold them accountable? We often hear the phrase, it's almost a bumper sticker now, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. I completely disagree. I think people leave bad leadership ecosystems. Bear with me. So what if we have a bad boss, but the organization notices it, acknowledges it, trains them, supports them, and checks in with them to make sure they're improving? Or fires them if they aren't improving because they'll do more harm to the larger culture if they're left to stay. Doesn't that sound amazing? Would you stay at that organization? We're so quick to blame the person, the problem. I use air quotes as the problem because it's much bigger than that. Because if we only ever swap out the nameplate without addressing the conditions that allowed bad leadership to thrive, we'll keep repeating the same problems. Organizations often confuse accountability with optics. They move someone out of a role, but they don't address what made their leadership style acceptable in the first place. If the system stays the same, it doesn't matter who's in charge. You can't change culture with personnel shifts alone. You need to change the ecosystem that supports or enables that leadership. And to do that, you need some shared understanding, which gets me to number 5. Defining terms is absolutely essential. I started on this show pretty quickly defining terms because we were thrown around like crazy and nobody was actually defining them. And one of the quietest killers of trust in any workplace is misalignment, and it often starts with assumptions. So what does leadership mean in your organization? I often ask that very question, and people like Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, I'm like, okay, that's how you define leadership. But the organization only promotes people they like or people that fix their problems. So that's how they define leadership. Right away, there's some disparity. So what about respect, transparency, trust, diversity? If you haven't defined these terms together out loud with your teams, then you're operating on guesses, and these guesses will not match. One person thinks respect means never questioning authority, while someone else thinks it means speaking up when someone's wrong. And now you've got tension. Not because of malice, but because you skipped the hard part of shared definitions. We need to sing from the same song sheet here. Clarity is kindness. Brene Brown said so I believe her. When we define the words we build our culture on, we're not limiting people, we're aligning them. And alignment is how you move forward without leaving people behind. So here we are at the final truth I'm going to share today. Number 6, we need to treat root causes, not just symptoms. Burnout isn't just about workload. Turnover isn't just about pay. Quiet quitting isn't laziness. And disengagement isn't because people don't care. These are symptoms, signals, alarm bells, telling us that something deeper is wrong, that expectations aren't clear, that trust is broken, that leaders aren't showing up with presence, empathy, or follow-through. But what do we usually do? We try to fix the metric. the number, the behavior. We offer yoga classes when the real problem is toxic management. We throw bonuses at retention when the real issue is lack of growth or respect. We improve onboarding checklists when the challenge is the supervisor doesn't actually care to make an effort with new staff. And then we wonder why nothing improves. And if we're not curious enough to ask the harder questions, the systemic questions, then we'll just keep putting band-aids on symptoms while the disease festers and goes untreated. These 6 truths aren't just things I've noticed. They've been echoed again and again by the guests I've had. The stories listeners have shared with me, and the research and reflection that shaped this show. They're not meant to be catchy quotes or performance reviews waiting to happen. They're meant to be reminders, anchors, maybe wake-up calls. Because leadership isn't about being perfect. We know this. It's about being present. Culture isn't about slogans. It's about systems. And relationships at work, they're built or broken based on what leaders choose to prioritize. And leadership is a choice, after all. And we can choose to do better for those we're responsible for. Because again, problems in the workplace are caused by leadership. But the solution is also leadership. And that's what we're here for. And that will do it for the 250th episode anniversary things to take away episode. It was a little longer than the usual mini episodes, but I wanted to get some stuff off my chest. I wanted to share with you some of the takeaways. I hope you found it valuable and useful. This has been Relationships at Work, your leadership guide to building workplace connection and avoiding blind spots. I want to thank you so much for being here. However you joined us in this journey, maybe you were at the very beginning, maybe around 100, maybe last episode was your very first episode. I just want to thank you for showing up, for listening, and hopefully for leading a little differently than you did before, that you found value in our guests, in my insights and experiences that I share. But anyway, gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. That's what I'm throwing at you. So here's to the next 250. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.